I'm a fan of the whole philosophy of being a multiplanetary species. So if you ask me, I believe it that right that humans will we are very exploratory in nature, and we need to be outside as well. Like just like inside, we need to be outside as well, see more things.
This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency space. Hey folks, it is clear that DeFi is continuing to drive innovation and growth in the crypto space. The Crypto Conversation sponsor BitGet has dived deep into DeFi with the recent evolution of the BitGet wallet, a self-custody multi-chain DeFi wallet. You can think of the BitGet wallet as the integration of some of the best parts of decentralized finance or DeFi with the BitGet exchange, centralized finance or CeFi structure. And it's more than just secure storage. One of the most important aspects of the Web3 BitGet wallet is BitGet Swap, which supports tokens from more than 90 different blockchains and offers cross-chain compatibility across 17 different chains. BitGet Swap aggregates liquidity across 100 DEXs and leverages intelligent routing mechanisms to provide users with the best trading prices across different protocols. So try the BitGet wallet. Download the app today. I've put a link in the show notes, or just go to web3.bitget.com. All right. Well, thank you to BitGet. And now it is on with the show. And my guest today is Ayush Ranjan. Ayush is the co-founder and CEO at Huddle01, whose mission is to democratize WebRTC and make it more private, secure, and scalable. Welcome to the show, Ayush.
Thank you so much, Andy, for having me. And great to be here.
Great to have you here. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. It'd be great if you could please introduce yourself. Would just love to hear, I guess, some of your personal and professional backstory and what you've been doing in the lead up to getting involved with, founding Huddle01.
So my journey is that I am an electrical engineer by my study. I studied electrical engineering, graduated back in 2016, did a lot of work in product and growth for 4 years in the startup world, basically growing all these B2C based startups from 0 to 1. So did a lot of work in digital marketing, SEO, ASO, and all the growth based stuffs like programmatic advertising. But realized that the way we are doing advertising is not great because you target people left, right, and center. So that's where I stumbled upon something called as Brave Browser, which was my entry into the world of Web3 space in 2019 itself, where I realized that you don't need to target people to show them ads. You can actually make sure that you can build a bottom-up system in which you can show these ads in a much more non-targeted manner while still having great results. So that's how I entered the space. The first token which I ever bought was not BTC or ETH, but actually BAT, Basic Attention Token, because I so much believe in the project. And then in 2020, while I dabbled more into the blockchain Web3 space, I stumbled upon a hackathon which was happening in the Web3 arena, which was called ETH Global Hackerfest. It happens every year, same time in July. And ETH Global was fantastic, doing these online hackathons of 30 days, 7 days, 21 days. So I was like, okay, let's try to get into this and understand that what's happening there in the hackathon space of Web3. So I then got my co-founder, who is now my co-founder, Sushmit, and also the CTO at Huddle, as a kind of hackathon partner, and we decided to build something in the hackathon. And that's where we realized that it was July of 2020. Zoom was trading at the top of the stock market, maybe a bit frothy as well because of the whole COVID saga. But there was a big privacy issue at that time, which was called Zoom bombings. That means anyone can join your Zoom call. It was not private. And that made us realize that privacy is a very big concern in the world of communication, and communication is the integral part of human beings to collaborate, innovate, and basically to move further along. And then over time, we realized that the problem is not just with Zoom, the problem is actually with all the infrastructure of video communications and audio communication itself. So that's how we started building a peer-to-peer video calling platform. And then we added a layer of IPFS and file control recording, live peer for live streaming, and that's how we built the first product layer of Huddle01. Now, in the last 3 years, we have become a team of 30 people, raised more than $5 million so far, and have built the product layer, the SDK layer, as well as the protocol layer, where the SDK is more like you can integrate audio, video into your own product in less than 5 minutes using 5 lines of code. And the protocol is basically that if you, me, and Sushmit are doing a call, Sushmit can become a node and he can power the meeting. So we have built a proper people-powered communication network, starting with the app layer, moving to the SDK layer, which is the middleware, and then moving towards the protocol layer itself. So yeah, I think that's the journey about us. Yeah, in descriptive manner.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Yeah, we packed a lot in there, and it's fascinating. I love the fact that your entry, I suppose, into Web3 or blockchain was, as you said, the Brave browser and basic attention token. Yeah, I mean, I had Brendan Ike, of course, the founder of, well, various internet endeavors, but yeah, the Brave browser. I had Brendan on the show before. Very, very smart guy. And Brave is a great browser. Are you still using Brave today?
Yes, I am. So I think my first entry point was in 2019 when I actually pinged Brendan Ike that I really love Brave. And he was kind enough to reply almost immediately. And then we had a back and forth, a lot of conversations with Brave and Huddle01. And then it was a dream come true for me then when in 2022, Brendan Ike asked about Huddle01 because I was just starting on 2019. So he saw the journey in a manner where he saw me that I was entering the space, understanding what Brave was, to now basically we were just discussing our technology stack and Brave's technology stack. So yeah, it was kind of a full circle when a legend like Brendan Ike, who is talking about your company, is talking about what your company do and where you are in that journey. So yeah, I think that's how it's really refreshing to remember that. So I'm still a fan, still using it, and for looking forward to a collaboration with Brave. Hopefully that can happen soon. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'd love to see that. All right, well, let's just backtrack slightly, Ayush, for people that are perhaps less technical or, a little bit more unfamiliar with how communication across the internet works. Do you want to just give us a kind of high-level overview of what WebRTC is? And yeah, I guess we can go from there.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, that's a great question. And so WebRTC is a protocol. Technically, it's a bunch of protocols, which means nothing but protocol or set of rules. So this is how the communication in a digital manner happens. That means, let's suppose if you and me are doing a call, there is an audio packet and there is a video packet. All these packets are basically going from my browser and basically, and that's how we are able to communicate. This all happens via optic fiber cables. That means making sure that it since the communication latency should be less than 100 milliseconds. That's how you feel like you're doing a real-time communication a call. So in 2000 or 1997, Google basically started contributing to WebRTC, which was a peer-to-peer protocol. That means my browser was directly talking to your browser. This is how the communication started. Skype was the first example of a peer-to-peer video conferencing platform. The problem with peer-to-peer calls, though, was that it cannot scale more than 4 people. And that's where the entity of centralization started coming into picture. That means because if you're doing a peer-to-peer call, only 4 people can join the call. And that is the reason why Skype was not scalable, if you remember back in the day. And then came Cisco WebEx. That was also not as scalable. And then Cisco WebEx turned into Zoom, like with Eric Yuan leaving Cisco WebEx and joining and basically starting Zoom and getting 40 engineers from Cisco WebEx to create Zoom, because Zoom became a kind of a much more scalable way to do video calls, because they added a layer of centralization in a manner where now instead of my browser directly talking to your browser, there is a central server in between, and that server is acting more like a super node and routing the call between different servers, between different participants. So this is how the whole media communication works right now in terms of real-time communication. That means the call has moved away from peer-to-peer to more like a central server-based communication, which is SFU, selective forward unit-based communications. And everyone whom you see right now, from Google Meet to Zoom to Microsoft Teams, the way the communication happens right now is having a media server, a selective forward unit, which is run on a central server. Now here comes Huddle01 and says that this is great. The calls have become scalable. Absolutely amazing. But it also came with a lot of problems since you introduced a big level of centralization. The first problem was that the server is a black box. Now, if you and me are chatting and doing a call right now, our calls are uh, transport encrypted, but not content encrypted. By that, what I mean is that my call can still be seen by the server on what's happening behind the calls. And that's why you would have seen that there is like people can, Zoom also came under a lot of fire because of this, that you can train AI data on top of your whatever you're chatting. So this is happening because on the server you can see the data yourself. So you need to make sure that that data, that server doesn't become a black box. That's number one. Second, and the biggest problem, is latency. So if you and me are doing a call in, let's suppose, India, but the servers are still in North Virginia. Why? Because that's where the cheapest server farms are for anyone for anyone who's using these server farms in general. So that's second problem. The third problem is a top-down system, which means that every call which we are doing, all the value is accrued either to just Zoom or to an AWS provider who is the cloud provider. And that's where we came up with the people powered communication network. That means that if Ayush and Andy are doing a call, Andy can become a node himself and Andy can power the call rather than relying on any centralized server. So now Andy doesn't even have an incentive to see my data, number one. Number two, the latency decreases because my call are not routed through not going all the way to a different part of the continent. And number three is that it's a new bottom up economy, a new bottom up way in which you can create a new economy altogether where your compute and bandwidth is used rather than using a central server. So, yeah, I think that's the whole culmination on the journey of how the communication started and how it has moved away from peer to peer to an SFU based communication on a server to now an SFU based communication on your own laptop, which we are building. So, yeah.
Got it. Fantastic. Thank you, Ayush. And I suppose the problem with some of these ideas in terms of building out the decentralized internet, building the infrastructure for Web3, which I understand is what people such as yourself and your team are doing. For the, let's say, the average user, outside of the crypto native community. So let's just use Zoom as an example. And as you rightly pointed out, it was amazing to watch in 2020 Zoom kind of come from nowhere, from a very little known and little used application outside of, I guess, maybe the tech industry. Suddenly it was, the number one probably app in the world for a while there, simply because everyone was stuck at home in the early lockdowns, and suddenly video calls were a massive thing, and Skype was a little bit clunky, and Zoom was kind of the next generation. And Zoom bombing. I remember Zoom bombing. You'd sort of see that on, I guess, like, I don't know, you'd see news clips would go viral of politicians being Zoom bombed sometimes. And that was a game that people played. But I suppose the point I'm making, Ayush, is the average user of something like Zoom, and this can be anything like, Facebook or any kind of social media. The average user, as you'll be all too aware, wants the seamless Web 2 style experience, which is Facebook or Zoom. They want the ease of use. They want the fancy features. They're less worried about the privacy aspects at the moment, aren't they? Do you think that's still a fair characterization?
Yeah, you are completely on the point there, Andy. And I think privacy is definitely something which is needed and has a emerging and growing market. But I still believe that there needs to be a lot of educational drip campaigns to make people understand how their data is being used, which will take time. It's a course of time which it will take to happen. So definitely, what else can you give to a normal consumer who is not into deep in the trenches of the Web3 world? What can you give them on the platform layer of Huddle01? Which we had been thinking for 3 years. And that's why we have been building the feature sets in a manner where we don't compare our feature parity with something like Zoom, where we just keep on building features. Just like Zoom has whiteboard, so we also do whiteboard. We didn't focus on that, but we focus on something which Zoom doesn't think about, or which other platforms like Zoom don't think about. So the number one thing, which I'll say, that for a creator like you, and for any person who has a lot of content which is getting created on Zoom, at Huddle01 we have a very interesting feature which is nothing to do with Web3 or Web2 or Web3, but a feature set which is focused on distribution, which means that if you are doing a call on Huddle01, you can live stream that call onto Twitch, onto YouTube, onto X, onto LinkedIn in one click. So you get a 4 channel distribution via Huddle01 in just one click, which makes sure that your content reaches the masses at a much more broader level, which is not possible on any other platform right now in the world. That's first. The second is that you don't need to log in via your Google auth. And by that, what I mean is that your data will belong to you. That's just for the people who prefer privacy. So now your IP, your email address, I don't take any of this information, because you have your own self custody wallet like MetaMask. This is for Web3 people. But for Web2 people, you can just do a guest login, and you can just log in the call and can have a good time, a good meeting in that sense. The third is that we have this whole crypto primitives which we use, which is very fun to use. And this is something which I've seen a lot of schools also starting to adopt in their after school kind of things, where people love to, like, in general, they don't want to switch on their videos while doing a Zoom call or a Huddle call or any kind of calls, because it's training to your eyes. And also something where you need to pay more attention if you just switch on the video, because you have to see your background and basically how you're looking and stuff. And that's why what we did was at Huddle is that we introduced NFT as an avatar. With that, you mean that if you switch off your video, instead of just having an A or a just your picture, there's an avatar of your NFT which you own, which you can use, which can also be like a virtual kind of an that means your face can get swapped by your NFT. That is the next thing which is coming up, which makes sure that this whole becomes more like a pseudonymity kind of an experience for any person who is using it. The fourth is basically you can, like you use Zoom or like you use Google Meet, you can schedule your calls on Google Calendar from Huddle01 itself. So Huddle01 is also integrated into Google Workspace. Huddle01 is also integrated into cal.com, which is a kind of a scheduling infrastructure like Calendly. And so you can, it's not like you just have to use Huddle01 directly. You can actually, you're just using your Google Calendar. It's Huddle is more like invisible. You won't even feel like you're doing a Web3 native call. You'll feel like you're doing a call in a platform like Google Meet. It's just that your video quality is better. And then the best thing is that at Huddle01, the recordings are way cheaper as compared to doing a recording on any other platform. So for Zoom or for any other platforms, you have to pay after a particular point of time when your recording limit is exhausted, and then you have to pay for the cloud-based recordings. And the good thing about Huddle is that you can record those calls and store over Filecoin at a which is way more cheaper. So for any kind of content creator, for anyone who is a very power user of these video based communication platforms, for them storing their recordings is way more cheaper because of the new infrastructure of Web3 which we use. So if I just do a summary of it, there is a new emerging primitive which you can use in terms of an NFT as an avatar. You can do token gated meetings. You can record your calls at a much more cheaper pace. And the most importantly, your distribution increases 4x as compared to doing that on any other platforms other than Huddle01. So I think that's how I'll culminate talk about the platform layer, and then on the SDK layer and the network layer is something which you can go into further details.
Yeah, got it. Thank you, thank you. And I mean, I love the idea that essentially, you're building all these features and making it possible for developers to integrate them into, whatever products, services, platforms they are building. But ultimately, eventually, the end user doesn't really. It's up to them how much they engage with the different features and privacy nodes, and they don't necessarily need to know exactly all the different tech stacks and how decentralized it is or isn't. But you're just building a great platform for them to use, whether they're Web3 native or not, right?
100%. 100%.
The other thing that I think is fascinating, Ayush, is this idea of I think it's DePIN, right? Decentralized physical infrastructures, and how they can leverage how they can leverage the blockchain to kind of build and operate real world physical infrastructure, but in a decentralized, permissionless way, right?
Yes. Deepen is the I think the new terminology which has come into coined by Messari. I think specifically Sami Kassab was one of the person who wrote the first article on a Deepen wave, which is more like right now, if you think about it, if you divide the internet infrastructure, there are a couple of networks. There is a server or a cloud-based network. There is a 5G network. There is a LoRaWAN or a Bluetooth network. There are energy networks. There are CDNs out there. And then there's something like a WebRTC network, which we are creating. So in all these cases, if you think about it, let's talk about the 5G networks right now. The mobile towers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever we use, it requires to set up a huge infrastructure first, and then basically and then there is a lot of opex cost. So there is a lot of capital expenditure cost, and then there is operational expenditure cost, a lot. So it takes a lot of time, number one, to build that supply, and number two, it takes a lot of time to lot of time, money, to both for the capital infrastructure and also for the operational expenses in general. What Deepin has solved or is solving is making sure that this infrastructure costings of capex and opex becomes virtually zero. Like it decreases to a extent where you don't need to like give you a lot of your time and a lot of your money to build these centralized towers and infrastructures. One good example is what Helium is doing, uh, uh, going against something like AT&T and making sure that the 5G towers are something which doesn't need to be like big towers in one part of the city, but people can become a node by itself, and there are a lot of people, and they are the ones who are basically powering this whole mobile network which Helium is trying to create in general. So this is one way where Helium will reduce, and that's the reason why if you see Helium Mobile, the plan of them is $5 per month as compared to AT&T, which is $80 per month. Now, this is the same thing which happens with a different DeepIn called Filecoin. The Filecoin is also a DeepIn where now you can become a storage provider yourself rather than AWS S3, a central storage provider. Now, because of the whole game of the people becoming the supply side of things, there is more competition, and that drives down the cost. Plus, you don't need to set up the infrastructure yourself, put in man hours, and build that infrastructure. It's just that it is the free market takes over in that kind of scenario, and that also decreases the costings. Now, we have seen that happen in the storage networks, energy, and all the other networks like 5G, which we talked about. But now comes the time which we are building, and that's why Huddle is one of the, I'll say, fundamental blocks in the deep industry, uh, because we are communicating right now, and that is also happening via centralized infrastructure, because of which the charges for even Zoom is $20 per month. Our bet is that it shouldn't be charged $20 per month. Like, you don't need to pay that amount of money just to do communication. And it is not just Zoom's fault, it is the way the infrastructure is built. The capex costings are high. They need to make sure that their unit economics make sense. They are EBITDA wise positive, And the problem happens because of how the whole infrastructure is built in a completely centralized fashion. Now, if you switch that completely to a deepen, that means making sure that now Andy, Ayush, Colin, Sushmit can become nodes, that costing goes down completely to virtually zero. It's like competition between hotels and Airbnb. You cannot open hotels everywhere. You need to give a lot of those capex costings and opex costings, but you can open Airbnb from your own flat, your own home, your own apartments, and that's the reason why Airbnbs are also cheaper, but they're also kind of well maintained, and that's the reason why they scaled so much. The startup of Brian Chesky and the whole team. So this is what we are doing to the WebRTC network, which we talked about earlier, making sure that we democratize WebRTC and give the access back to people, making sure that the costing goes down a lot, latency decreases a lot. That means what we feel like when we're doing a call right now in a 2D based environment, like we're still doing a call on a 2D screen on Huddle01 or on Zoom, we can do that same thing in a more, I'll say, science fiction style, Iron Man style call, where you can just use my screen and you can just do a call with me, which looks completely immersive in nature. That means you'll feel like I am there next to you. Now that is not possible with the current infrastructure because of the latency problems, the problems with costings, and this is what completely will get changed as deepen takes over in terms of the as a fundamental in the communication infrastructure space as well, which we've been doing for the last 3 years. The only thing here which I'll add is deepen is a marketplace problem. That means you need to solve both demand as well as supply. So at Huddle01, we are trying to solve demand first, making sure that we have demand on the platform. A lot of people use it because of various factors like distribution, better audio video quality, new primitives, cheaper recordings, and then we have an SDK. That means people can build on top of you. And then we are launching the network so that when the network is launched, there is already some demand which we have bootstrapped ourselves in that sense. So yeah, this is how I'll end up on the deepen point, is that this is how the whole space has been emerging, and this is what we are doing here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And yeah, I mean, just generally, I agree. You know, for the build out of deepen networks is essential just to kind of lay a path, if you like, for potentially reorganizing the world's institutions and infrastructure to something that is perhaps a bit more sustainable, equitable, connected, and future proof, really. But look, Ayush, as we finish up this part of the podcast, yeah, for listeners, for developers, especially for people that are interested in learning more about what you and the team are building at Huddle01, the different tools and products available. Yeah, please tell people what should they do, where should they go?
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning this. I think the layers which we talked about, the first was the app layer, which is that you can use Huddle01, very similar to how you use Zoom, Google Meet. It's available on Google Calendar as well. You just have to download the Huddle01 in the workspace of Google. So it will feel like you are doing a meeting on Google Meet or Zoom, but you can just add Huddle01 as a default. And you can just have a great way of a refreshing way of doing a call, which feels in which there is a no learning curve. And if you are a Web3 power user, it's just an icing on the cake. The second, which we didn't talk about that much, was on the SDK layer. This is for the stakeholder like developers. So developers who basically want to build, add audio and video into their own products, they can use our SDK and 5 lines of code, 5 minutes, and they can integrate audio and video into their own products. A good example could be anyone who's building a kind of a Twitter competitor or X competitor and wants to add Twitter Spaces kind of feature. Now that's a kind of specialty in which you can just use our SDK and integrate audio spaces into your own product in less than 5 minutes. So that's the SDK layer part of things. It's used by a lot of developers to build any kind of audio and video based applications in the world. So that's the second part. We have right now powering more than 180 applications on top of our SDKs. So anyone who's interested, any developer can use it. And the third is, which is coming up, is the white paper of Huddle01, after which miners will be able to, or validators, or anyone who's running Ethereum nodes, who's running live peer nodes or Filecoin nodes, can basically start running Huddle01 nodes as well from their own laptop itself. So there's everything for every kind of stakeholder. First, for the consumer like you and me, who can use the app layer, for the developer who can use the SDK layer, and for the miners or researchers who can use the protocol layer for staking into the ecosystem. So everything for everyone, and we're looking forward to your thoughts onto how you like the app, the SDK, and also your thoughts on the white paper, which is launching next 1 month. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Of course, link will be in the show notes to Huddle01. I reckon we go to a very quick break, and then we will come back. We'll have some fun. We'll run Ayush through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round. Back in 1 second.
Hey, what are you still doing up?
I've just spent my entire Friday night researching Bitcoin charts, crypto glossaries. My brain feels like it's going to explode.
Why don't you just use BitGet? It's going to save you at least 10,000 hours trying to learn it yourself. It's an online crypto exchange. You can copy successful real-life traders having their expertise to make smarter trades.
Really?
Yes, really. Don't miss out. Get on it now. And by the time you're done, Bitcoin will be worth about $100,000.
I just got my cat to help me do the research.
Hands off, gains up. Start copy trading on BitGet.
All right, we are back, and I'm with Ayush Ranjan. Ayush, of course, is the co-founder and CEO at Huddle01, democratizing, digital communications, really, and making it more private, secure, and scalable for the decentralized era. Absolutely fascinating talking to Ayush today. But yes, Ayush, you may or may not know, but I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, my man. I'm just going to run some questions at you. Just want you to answer them, I guess honestly, in a kind of rapid fire hot take style, if you like, but no right or wrong way to do it. Question one for you, Ayush, is where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
So I'll be more on the spectrum, tilted more towards multi-chain opportunistic.
I thought you might say that. That is all good. Next question. What would you say is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
My firmest crypto opinion?
Yes.
I think this is by Kevin Owoki, or by something which I've been reading about, the Green Pill book, is that crypto is nothing but a one of the best coordination tools out there.
Yeah, I like that. Very well said. Okay, Ayush, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So, with that in mind, anything you like, but, could be Web3, could be Huddle01, could be digital online communication. What does it look like in 10 years' time?
Yeah, in 10 years' time, it looks like every communication platform in the world will be powered by Huddle01's protocol layer. So Zoom will be powered by the protocol layer which Huddle01 has built, and all the communication platforms which we see right now, everything will become immersive, and the problems which we face in the world right now in terms of climate change, in terms of diseases, in terms of innovations, that will become way more solvable, because humans inherently will be able to communicate, collaborate, and innovate better wherever they are in the world, because of how the infrastructure will make sure that the calls are extremely immersive in nature, and you feel like you are just sitting with that person right next to it, without those big lofty I'll say VR based devices on your eyes.
Yeah, got it, like it. All right, well, sci-fi author William Gibson said that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. With that in mind, can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
Yeah, I think for that, I'll say that anything right now in terms of what crypto has done is exactly the same thing in a lot of these fashions, where they have built a lot of bottom-up systems. So a lot of people still don't know about the power they hold in their phones, or the power they hold with the laptops they have. It's crypto has, I'll say, infamously just been in the normal world is famous more towards things which have exploded or things where the prices are going up. But in terms of opportunity, as we have talked about the whole deep in space right now, there is a huge opportunity to be a first mover right now, to run these Filecoin nodes, to run these Bitcoin nodes, to run these Ethereum based nodes, and to basically, so that it becomes very equitable in nature over time, because you can front run a lot of people, and then in that sense, and you can be the first mover to make sure that you are able to get the financial rewards out of it, because a new network is getting formed and you get to be a part of it, rather than that being completely privatized without in a black box where you don't know what's happening. So I'd say that future is here in all the networks, all of these infrastructure based networks out there, and people, if they look into details of it, they will be able to reap a lot of benefits by giving their compute bandwidth as a service in exchange for rewards in terms of securing that network. So it's just that we need a better, I'll say, bottom up, a better kind of educational trip campaign. But yeah, the future is here in terms of how things are getting built. It's just that it will take some time for people to realize.
Yeah, very well said, very well said. All right, as we start to finish off, if we zoom out, Ayush, what do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see a dystopia or utopia?
Yeah, so I'll say it's more like a utopia. I'm a fan of the whole philosophy of being a multi-planetary species. So if you ask me, I believe that humans we are very exploratory in nature, and we need to be outside as well. Just like inside, we need to be outside as well, see more things. So I'm very interested in the whole philosophy of these things like Dyson sphere, making sure that humans can reach Kardashev scale. Kardashev scale is something where we are at 0.5 and we can reach till 5. By that Kardashev scale, what I mean is that you can take the energy, how much energy can you consume on Earth using the infrastructure that you have. So right now we are not even in a position to capture the whole energy of sun, let alone the galaxy and the universe. So I think the more we start doing building these infrastructures, you can think about it just like how we are improving latency right now. And if you decrease the latency to 10 milliseconds, your calls become immersive. Imagine what can happen if you can increase 1000x energy consumptions take from the universe itself. What kind of things you can build, like flying cars could be one of the examples, but you can do extremely interesting things which human minds can't even fathom right now. So I'm very optimistic about the future on where things are headed, and that will lead to and Huddle will play a major role in that. I feel that in the cross galactic communication, the protocol layer of Huddle will also play a role. So that's how I see the future. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant stuff. I love it. And I love it that you've used the example of a Dyson sphere and the Kardashev scale. Yeah, I have a son. He's 13 years old, and at school at the moment, he's working on he has to do a presentation on, it's like a science fair thing, and he's doing a little project on Dyson spheres, which is
amazing.
Which is amazing. Cool. And he's using the Kardashev scale because I've spoken to him about it. And listeners, if you're not aware, of course, the Kardashev scale is, I think there's type 1 civilization, type 2, and type 3. Type 1, as Ayush has correctly pointed out, is able to access all the energy available on its planet, and I think we're halfway or 3/4 of the way to becoming a type 1 civilization. Type 2 civilization can use a star's energy, so in our case it would be the sun, using something like a Dyson sphere. And of course the type 3 civilization, which is far into the future presumably, is able to capture all the energy energy emitted by its galaxy. Incredible science fiction type stuff, which really brings us to our final question very nicely, Ayush, which is, what is your favorite science fiction book, a film, or TV show?
Yeah, I think I like Dune a lot. In terms of science fiction, Dune is one of the things which makes me understand the whole spectrum of the dynasty and the kingdoms and how the things happen. The second I'll say is three body problem. So I've been hooked into Section Loop, and so that would be second, and the third would be Cryptonomicon by Neil Stephenson. So these are my top favorite science fiction books, if you ask me. Yeah. Multiple parts, but yeah.
Yeah, no, there's some great selections there. Cryptonomicon, incredible. Yeah, I read that. Oh, probably 20. I read it when it came out, which is probably 25 years ago. Showing my age slightly there. But the three body problem as well is a great choice. And look, regular listeners to the crypto conversation will be aware that, surprising or not surprising, the three body problem is probably one of the most answered questions to this question. A good Web3 buddy of mine, Brett, of course, is very aware of this. He's a friend of mine. I think he's on book 2 of the three body problem at the moment. And he read the first book and he was like, Andy, I'm not sure why everyone chooses this. I'm not sure about it. But then he reflected and kept going on book 2, and now is very much enjoying the series. And I have said before that we'll get Brett. He works at Gamma, the Bitcoin Ordinals marketplace. He'll be back on the show to talk about it at some point. But yeah, great selections, Ayush.
Yeah, I think last one I forgot one more, which is my favorite, was Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson.
Yeah,
that's also one of my. I just wanted to plug that in as well. But yeah,
of course, and Snow Crash famously coined the term the metaverse. So yeah, fantastic.
Yes, exactly.
All right, let's close it out, Ayush. Just to close it out again by telling people where they should go to learn all about what you and the team are building at Huddle01. And if you're on Twitter or X, please share your X handle.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are super active on Twitter. That's where Huddle01 team lives, like 24/7. So my handle is @Ranjan, my last name, and 3118. That's the numerics. So Ranjan 3118 is where I'm super active on DMs, way more active than email or Telegram. And same as Huddle01 as well. It's Huddle01 com. That's where our team is active. The DMs are open there as well. And looking forward to your suggestions. We are looking forward to hire people across all the functions, and looking forward to getting your thoughts on the product, on the SDK, and on the protocol layer. And please, we are also going to make sure that we are launching our white paper. It's a fantastic research by my co-founder and my team, which includes the crypto economics team. And they have been doing some very amazing work on the economics and the incentive layer about it. And that's the reason why we haven't launched any kind of token in the last 3 years. We always believe that let's get demand first and build the product and get the incentive layer sorted. But looking forward to all the viewers who are listening to this, because I think that crowd completely is great to give us valuable suggestions on all the 3 layers. So I think that's how I'll end it. Please reach out, and happy to chat about anything.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yash. I very much enjoyed talking to you today. Thank you for spending some time with us. All the best, and bye for now.
Yeah. Bye, Andy. Thank you so much.
All right, there you go. That was Ayush from Huddle01. Fantastic talking to Ayush. Really enjoyed that. Great discussion at the end. It's always a pleasure and a treat, of course, to talk about Dyson spheres and the Kardashev scale, and of course, the three body problem. So I think we hit the trifecta there. Must get me old mate Brett back on for his in-depth review of the three body problem. I wonder if he's up to novel 3 yet. I'll send him a message, send him this podcast, see where he is, see how he's doing. Thank you, team, for listening. to another episode. We reached the end of another episode. Thank you again to Ayush and the team at Huddle01 for coming on the show. Thank you for listening. Do make sure you are subscribed to the Crypto Conversation and whatever podcast app you are using. But that is it for today. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin.